Elia's ward stood near the wide glass wall of the conquered station and watched the stars slide past. He had seen space before, too much of it, but this place felt different. Everything here was smooth, quiet, and controlled. The galactic conquered did not like disorder, and humans, according to their files, were full of it. Around him, other species moved in calm patterns, tall ones with glowing eyes, small ones with many hands, creatures that floated instead of walked. They spoke softly through translators, never raising their voices. Elias noticed how none of them stood too close to each other. Space here was measured. Humans were new to the conquered. They had arrived with warnings attached to their name, emotionally unstable, highly reactive, socially intense. The conquered did not reject such species, it managed them. That was why Elias now waited to meet his assigned companion liaison. A soft chime sounded behind him. He turned. She stood there, smaller than he expected, barely reaching his chest. Her skin was a pale shade of blue, smooth and faintly glowing, like light through shallow water. Her eyes were large and dark, reflecting the station lights. She wore a simple white garment that marked her role. She held her hands together in front of her, fingers long and delicate. "I am Luri," she said gently. The translator made her voice calm and even. "I have been assigned to you." Elias nodded. "I'm Commander Elias Ward." She inclined her head slightly. "I know." There was a pause. She seemed to be waiting for something. Elias shifted his weight. "So, what exactly do you do?" Luri answered at once, as if reciting something she had learned long ago. "I can serve. I can listen. I can be with you." Her words were simple, too simple. Elias frowned, not unkindly. "Be with me how?" "In proximity," she said. "In silence or conversation, in stress or rest. My presence is intended to reduce emotional instability." That made his chest feel tight. He had been a soldier for most of his life. He knew what support looked like. This did not feel like support, it felt like ownership. "You don't have to stand like that," he said. She blinked. "Like what?" "Like you're waiting for permission to breathe." Luri seemed confused. "I am waiting for instruction." Elias sighed softly. "You can relax, I'm not going to order you around." Her fingers twitched. "I exist to follow orders." "That may be," Elias said, "but right now I'm telling you to just be comfortable." She considered this. Slowly, she lowered her hands to her sides. Her shoulders relaxed by a very small amount, like she was afraid even that might be wrong. They walked through the station together. Other species glanced at them, some with curiosity, some with quiet concern. Elias noticed that none of the companions walked beside their assigned beings. They walked half a step behind. Luri did too, until Elias stopped. "You don't have to stay back there," he said. "I am positioned correctly." "You're positioned where someone told you to stand," he replied. "That's different." She hesitated, then stepped forward until they walked side by side. Her steps were light, careful. As the hours passed, Elias realized something strange. Luri did not speak unless spoken to. She did not interrupt. She did not look away when he talked. She listened with complete focus, like every word mattered. At first that made him uncomfortable. Then slowly it made him tired. They sat in a quiet observation room. Elias stared at the stars again. He hadn't planned to talk, but the silence pressed on him. "I've lost people," he said suddenly. Luri did not react with shock or pity. She simply turned her head toward him. "I know," she said. "How?" "You carry it in how you stand," she replied. "In how your voice slows when you are not giving commands." Elias swallowed. No one had said that to him before. "They tell us humans are dangerous," he said. "Too emotional, too attached." "Are they wrong?" she asked softly. "No," he admitted. "But that's not always a bad thing." She tilted her head. "Attachment leads to pain. It also leads to loyalty," he said, "to care, to choosing to stay." Luri was silent for a long time. "Choice," she repeated as if tasting the word. "I do not understand it fully." "You will," Elias said. "Everyone deserves to." Over the next few days, small changes began to happen. Luri started asking questions. Not many, but enough to be noticed. She asked why humans ate together, why they touched each other's shoulders in comfort, why Elias thanked her when she brought him information. "You are not required to express gratitude," she said once. "I know," he replied. "I choose to." That word again. Other companions watched from a distance. They did not speak. But their eyes followed Lurie, and sometimes they followed Elias too. The conquered noticed. Reports were filed. Behavioral drift observed. Companions showing signs of independent curiosity. Human influence suspected. Elias was called in for evaluation. "This relationship is exceeding acceptable parameters," said the conquered official, a tall being of silver skin and glowing markings. "Your companion is not meant to develop identity." "She already has one," Elias said calmly. "She has a function." "So do I," Elias replied. "Does that mean I don't get to be a person?" The official did not answer. Tension grew as news arrived from the border systems. A hostile force had pushed into conquered space. The response was slow, careful, calculated. Humans were sent to hold the line. "It will be dangerous," Elias was told. "I know," he said. Lurie stood beside him as orders were given. When the command ended, she spoke quietly. "I will remain here," she said. Elias looked at her. "Who told you that?" "The conquered," she answered. "Companions do not enter active combat zones." "You want to stay?" he asked. Her mouth opened, closed. She looked down at her hands. "I do not know what I want," she said honestly. He placed his helmet under his arm. "Then don't decide because someone else told you to." When the transport doors closed, Elias thought she would stay behind. She didn't. She stood at the edge of the bay, hands shaking, eyes wide. "I am afraid," she said. "So am I," Elias replied. She took one step forward, then another. "I can listen," she said. "I can be with you." The ship lifted off. Alarms sounded. Somewhere deep in the station, systems registered something impossible. A companion had disobeyed. And for the first time in the history of the conquered, that disobedience was not born from malfunction, but from a promise. The ship shook as it broke away from the station. The low hum of engines grew louder, filling the transport bay with vibration. Elias felt it through his boots, through his bones. He adjusted his grip on the handrail and glanced at Lurie. She stood very still, as if afraid movement itself might undo her decision. Her eyes were wide, fixed on the closing doors of the conquered station as it became smaller behind them. "You can still go back," Elias said quietly. "No one will blame you." Lurie turned to him. Her voice was soft but steady. "If I go back now, I will not understand why I stayed before." Elias nodded once. "That's fair." As the ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, the stars stretched into lines. Lurie gasped softly, then relaxed when nothing went wrong. She folded her hands together, then slowly let them fall apart again, like she was testing whether she was allowed to do that. The combat zone was nothing like the conquered station. There were no smooth lights, no quiet voices. There was noise. Orders shouted across comms. Warning lights flashing red and amber. Humans moved fast, checking gear, helping each other without being told. Lurie watched everything. She noticed how humans touched each other's arms in passing, how they shared short looks that meant entire sentences. She noticed fear but also determination. No one pretended they were not scared, they just moved anyway. Elias led her to a safe corner of the command deck. "Stay here," he said. "If things go bad, follow the evacuation signal." "I will," she said. Then she paused. "You are going to protect them." "All of us are," Elias replied. "That is inefficient," she said, not as criticism but as observation. He smiled slightly. "Maybe, but it's who we are." The first impact came without warning. The ship lurched and alarms screamed. Lurie stumbled, but a human nearby caught her arm without thinking and steadied her. He didn't even look at her before running back to his station. Her breathing quickened. Enemy vessels filled the display screens. They were larger, darker, moving with cold precision. The conquered fleets hesitated, waiting for perfect positioning. Humans did not wait. Elias gave the order, and human ships surged forward, placing themselves between the enemy and the slower conquered lines. Energy fire lit the void like falling stars. "They will be destroyed," Lurie whispered. "Some of us," Elias said. "Not all." She watched as a human ship took a hit meant for another vessel. Its shields failed, but it stayed in position. "Why?" she asked. "Because someone else needed time," Elias answered. Something shifted inside her then. A tightness she had always felt, a silent rule that said survival came first, began to crack. The battle stretched on. Losses mounted. Humans adapted quickly, changing tactics mid-fight, communicating in fast, emotional bursts that confused the enemy's predictions. Lurie realized something with sudden clarity. The enemy did not understand humans because they did not understand choice. A blast rocked the command deck. The lights flickered. Lurie was thrown to the floor. Pain shot through her side, sharp and frightening. She tried to rise and failed. Elias was there instantly, kneeling beside her. "Lurie." "I am damaged," she said, surprised by the tremor in her voice. He checked her quickly. "You're hurt, but you'll live." "I should not be here," she said. "I am a liability." He shook his head. "You're a person, and people get hurt." That word again, person. The ship took another hit. Systems failed. Evacuation alarms sounded. "We're pulling back," someone shouted. Elias helped Lurie to her feet. She leaned on him, lighter than she looked, trembling but determined. As they moved through the corridor, Lurie saw something she had never seen before. Other companions. They were there, helping wounded humans, guiding them, refusing to leave. "They followed," she whispered. "Yes," Elias said. "They chose to." Across the conquered network, alarms multiplied. Companion units were breaking protocol everywhere. Not in chaos, but in coordination. They stayed with the humans they had been assigned to, not because they were ordered to, but because they did not want to abandon them. Scientists watched in disbelief as obedience markers faded, replaced by independent neural patterns. "This is not corruption," one whispered. "This is development." The humans fell back, but they did not lose. They held long enough. Reinforcements arrived. The enemy, confused by tactics driven by sacrifice instead of calculation, withdrew. The battle was over. In the aftermath, the conquered demanded answers. Elias stood before the council chamber again, Lurie beside him, no longer half a step behind. She stood straight, her hand not touching his but close enough to feel warmth. "You have destabilized multiple species," the conquered leader said. "Your influence has broken ancient control systems." Elias met its glowing eyes. "We didn't break them. We showed them something else." "Choice is dangerous," the leader replied. "So is fear," Elias said. "We just pick which one we live with." Lurie spoke then, her voice clear, carrying across the chamber. "We were never empty. We were only never asked." Silence filled the room. Other companions stepped forward, standing beside humans beside each other. The conquered faced a truth it had avoided for ages. Control had been easy. Respect was harder. In the end, they changed. Slowly, uneasily, but they changed. Companion species were recognized as sentient beings, not tools. Humans were no longer listed as emotionally unstable. They were listed as catalysts. Later, in a quiet place far from battle, Elias sat with Lurie, watching a new star rise over a distant world. "You don't have to stay," he said gently. She smiled, small but real. "I know." She looked at him, not as an assignment, not as a function, but as someone she chose. "I can listen," she said. "I can be with you." This time there was no command behind the words, only promise.